Be me, Seth, 32, work as a civil engineer. It's a decent job, lots of problem solving. You figure out how to make bridges stand up and buildings not fall down. Pretty straightforward. Married to Penny for about 3 years. When we met, I thought she was great. Passionate, smart, always talking about big ideas. A lot of it was about society, equality, fairness, stuff I agreed with. She spoke a lot about breaking down old-fashioned ideas, especially gender roles. I was all for it. A partnership should be a partnership, right? 50-50. Sounded like the perfect modern relationship. We both work, we both contribute. We split the bills based on our income, which was fine by me since I make a bit more. In the beginning, it was all theoretical. Lots of late-night talks about how traditionalism holds people back. She was really into this idea of toxic masculinity, how men are taught to suppress emotions and only value strength, and how that hurts everyone. I'd listen, nod along. Some of it made sense. I never considered myself a traditional guy. I cook, I clean. I don't have a problem talking about my feelings. So I figured we were on the same page. We were a team. The first signs that something was off were small. So small you'd think I was crazy for even noticing. We'd go grocery shopping together. I'd push the cart, no big deal. But at checkout, when we're loading up the car, a pattern started to emerge. I'd be lifting the heavy case of bottled water, the 20-pound bag of cat litter, the big sack of potatoes. She would grab the bag with the loaf of bread and the carton of eggs. I remember thinking it was a bit weird once or twice. Like, couldn't she at least grab the milk jugs? But I brushed it off. It's just groceries. Who cares? Then it started happening around the house. The kitchen sink started dripping one night. Annoying sound. I mentioned that we should call a plumber in the morning. She gives me this look, a look of genuine surprise. Then she says that plumbers are expensive, and it's probably just a simple washer. You're good at this kind of stuff. You can probably fix it in 10 minutes. I'm an engineer, but that doesn't make me a plumber. Still, I pop open YouTube on my phone, watch a few tutorials. An hour later, covered in grime from under the sink, I've replaced the washer and the dripping has stopped. Penny comes in, glances at the fixed sink, and says, "See? Knew you could do it." She didn't say thank you, just that she knew I could do it. It felt less like a compliment and more like a statement of expectation. A few weeks later, we're talking about chores. She brings up the idea that the gender division of labor in our home is problematic. I'm confused. I already do half the cleaning, all the yard work, and most of the cooking because she says she finds it creatively stifling. She explains that her point is about the expectation that she, as a woman, should have to do certain things is unfair. I agree, the expectation is unfair. So I ask her, okay, what's the solution? How do we make it more equal? She suggests we both just do what needs to be done whenever it needs doing. A fluid system. Sounds good in theory. In practice, it meant that I was still doing all the things I was doing before, and she was doing less. The trash would be overflowing. I'd ask if she could take it out on her way to work. She'd reply that the concept of man's work, like taking out the trash, is a patriarchal construct. Then she'd leave for her job at a local coffee shop, and I'd be left taking out the overflowing trash because someone had to do it. The lawn needed mowing. It was my job by default. One Saturday, I was feeling particularly drained from a long week at work. I asked if she'd be willing to mow the front yard. Just this once. She told me that the image of a woman mowing a lawn is often fetishized by men, and she didn't want to participate in that kind of display. I had no idea what to even say to that. So I went out and mowed the lawn myself. It felt like I was living in a different reality. I was being lectured about gender theory while being saddled with all the traditional male chores. It was like she wanted to be liberated from all the traditional female roles, but still wanted me to perform all the traditional male ones. I tried talking to my best friend about it one afternoon. He's a pretty straightforward guy, works in construction. I explained the situation, how Penny believes in total equality, no gender roles. He just listened patiently while I laid it all out: the trash, the sink, the lawn. When I was done, he took a sip of his beer and just said, "So, she wants all the benefits of feminism and all the benefits of traditionalism, and you get to do all the work." Hearing it said so plainly was like a splash of cold water to the face. I tried to defend her. "No, it's not like that. She just has very strong principles." He just shook his head. "Principles are what you do, not what you say. It sounds like her principle is making sure she never has to do anything difficult." That conversation stuck with me. I started paying more attention. I noticed how, whenever a problem required physical effort or getting your hands dirty, it was automatically my responsibility. A high shelf needs dusting? I'm the one who has to get the ladder. A spider in the bathroom? I have to go deal with it. The car makes a weird noise. I'm the one who has to pop the hood or take it to the mechanic. But if I ever asked for her help with these things, I'd get a lecture. My reluctance to kill a spider is a culturally conditioned female response. We should question why you feel no empathy for it. Our obsession with perfectly clean cars is a symptom of consumerist culture. It was endless. Every excuse was wrapped in academic-sounding language that made me feel like I was the unreasonable one. The real turning point, the moment I knew things had to change, happened a few months ago. Penny had been wanting a new bookshelf for the living room, a big one, the kind that goes from floor to ceiling. We spent a weekend looking online and finally found one she loved at IKEA. It was a huge, solid wood thing, very heavy. We ordered it. I knew it would be a pain to assemble, but it would make her happy. Delivery day comes. 2 massive, incredibly long flat-pack boxes arrive. The delivery guys are only paid to drop them at the front door, not inside. So there they are, sitting on our porch. Each box must have weighed over 100 pounds. I look at the boxes, then look at Penny. She's clapping her hands excitedly. "Oh, it's here. We can spend the evening putting it together. A true team project." I nod. "Okay. Well, first, we need to get it inside." I position myself at one end of the first box, ready to lift. I say, "All right, can you grab the other end?" She takes a step back. She crosses her arms and gets this thoughtful look on her face. "You know," she says, "I've been thinking about the way we perceive labor. The idea that heavy lifting is inherently a man's job is a cornerstone of toxic masculinity." I'm just standing there, crouched over this giant box, looking at her. "It's a performance," she continues. "Men are expected to perform strength to validate their masculinity. I don't want to enable that. I think it's important for you to realize you can do this without me." I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't a joke. She was completely serious. I'm just staring at her, speechless. The disconnect between her words and the reality of the situation was staggering. There are 2 100-pound boxes on the porch. They need to be moved inside. That's it. It wasn't about a performance. It was about physics. "So, you're not going to help me?" I finally managed to ask. "I'm supporting you by deconstructing the expectation that I should," she says, smiling, as if she's just given me a profound gift. She then turns around and walks back inside to get a glass of water. I stood there on the porch for a full minute. I thought about just leaving the boxes there. I thought about calling a friend to help. I thought about getting back in the car and just driving. But then I just felt this cold, calm clarity. It was a game, and I had been playing it all wrong. I had been trying to compromise, to find a middle ground, but there was no middle ground, because she wasn't interested in compromise. She was interested in winning, in having her ideology and her comfort at the same time. So I decided to play by her rules. Fine, I won't perform masculinity. I'll just get the job done. I took a deep breath and started wrestling with the first box. It was a nightmare. I had to sort of deadlift it, then shuffle my feet awkwardly toward the door. My back was screaming. I scraped my knuckles on the doorframe. I had to put it down twice just to catch my breath. All the while, Penny is standing in the living room, watching me. She has this encouraging smile on her face, like a coach watching a toddler take their first steps. "You're doing great," she says. "See how capable you are?" I finally get the first box into the living room and drop it with a loud thud. I'm sweating, breathing heavily. I don't even look at her. I just turn around and go back for the second one. The second one is even heavier. Halfway through the door, my grip slips. The corner of the box slams onto the floor, taking a chunk out of the hardwood. I let out a curse under my breath. Penny winces. "Oops, maybe be more careful." I finally get the second box inside and collapse onto the sofa. My whole body is aching. Penny walks over to the boxes, inspecting them. She looks at me, still breathing hard on the couch, and then she delivers the final line. "See?" she says, with a triumphant little smile. "You didn't need my help after all that fuss for nothing." That was it. That was the moment everything changed for me. I didn't say anything. I didn't argue. There was no point. I just got up, walked past her, went into the garage, and closed the door. I stood there in the silence, surrounded by my tools, the lawnmower, the toolbox, all the things I was solely responsible for, and I realized my friend was right. She wasn't my partner. I was her handyman, her live-in general contractor, who she also happened to be married to. My masculinity was toxic and problematic right up until the moment a heavy box needed to be moved or a pipe needed to be fixed. Then, it was just an unspoken expectation. Fine. If we're going to live in a world with no gender roles, then let's really do it. No more assumptions. No more expectations. Starting from that moment, I was done. I wasn't going to be angry or bitter. I was just going to follow the rules, her rules, the rule of fluidity, the rule of no expectations. Let's see how it works when it applies to both of us. The next morning was a Saturday, the start of the new era. I woke up and went about my morning routine. Around 10 a.m., Penny mentions that we're out of milk and coffee beans. Usually that's my cue to say, "Okay, I'll run to the store." Instead, I just said, "Oh, that's a shame," and continued reading a book. She waited for a minute. "So," she starts, "are you going to go get some?" I look up from my book. I wasn't planning on it. I don't drink milk, and I'm fine without coffee today. "But I want coffee," she said, her voice laced with a slight annoyance. "I understand," I replied calmly. "The store is about a 10-minute drive away." The look on her face was a mixture of confusion and irritation. She stood there for a moment, clearly expecting me to give in and just go. When I didn't, she let out an exasperated sigh, grabbed her keys, and left. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. Later that day, she was in the kitchen cooking something for herself. She had bought one of those meal kits. She's struggling to open a sealed glass jar of sauce. Her hands keep slipping. She's grunting with effort. I'm sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling on my phone. She puts the jar down with a loud clank. "Ugh, this thing is impossible." She pushes it across the table towards me, the universal signal for, "You open it." I don't move. I don't reach for it. I just look at the jar, then back at her. "Yeah, those can be tough," I say. The silence hangs in the air. "Seth," she says, her voice sharp now, "can you please open this for me?" I put my phone down. I looked her right in the eye. "Why do you think I would be better at opening it than you?" I asked, genuinely curious. She was flustered. "Because you're stronger, obviously." "Ah," I said, nodding slowly. So, you're saying that due to biological differences, men tend to have greater upper body strength than women? I was using her language against her, and she knew it. Her face turned red. Don't be ridiculous. Just open the jar. I don't think it's ridiculous, I said, my voice still perfectly level. I think it's an interesting point. We're always talking about how gender is a social construct. But here's a physical task where you believe my assigned gender at birth gives me an inherent advantage. It's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it? She snatched the jar back off the table. Fine, I'll do it myself. She spent the next 5 minutes running it under hot water, banging it on the counter, trying to use a dish towel for grip. Eventually, with a final pained shriek of effort, she got it open. She shot me a death glare before turning back to her meal prep. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. That was fine with me. I was enjoying the quiet. The next test came a week or so later. We have these big, heavy storm windows that we have to put up in the fall. It's a job I've always done myself. It requires carrying these awkward, heavy panes of glass up a ladder. I usually spend a whole Saturday doing it. The first cold front of the season was coming through. It was getting chilly at night. Penny mentioned it one morning. It's getting cold. You should probably put the storm windows up this weekend. Notice the you, not we. That's a good idea, I said. We should definitely get that done. Saturday comes. I wake up, make myself some breakfast, and then settle in to watch some college football. Around noon, Penny comes into the living room. I thought you were going to do the windows today. Oh, I'm not doing them by myself, I said, not taking my eyes off the TV. What? You always do them yourself? Well, I've been thinking about what you said, about me always performing masculinity. This feels like one of those things. It's a big physical job. It's not fair for one person to be expected to do it alone. But I don't know how to do it, she said. Then it's a perfect opportunity for you to learn, I replied. We can do it together, as a team, 50-50. You can hold the ladder, or I can hold the ladder. We can take turns carrying them up. She looked at me like I'd just suggested we build a rocket ship in the backyard. I can't carry those, she said. They're too heavy for me. Are you sure? I asked with a straight face. Maybe you're just internalizing societal messages that you're not strong enough. She threw her hands up in the air. This is absurd. It's going to be freezing tonight. I agree, I said. So let's get started. I'll meet you in the garage whenever you're ready to help. She stood there, fuming. Eventually, she just stormed out of the room. I knew she wouldn't come to the garage. The windows didn't get done that day, or the next day. The house was cold for the next week. We had to use extra blankets. She kept making passive-aggressive comments about it. Brr, it's really drafty in here, she'd say loudly. I'd just reply, yeah, it is. We really should get those windows done together soon. After a week of sleeping in a cold house, she finally broke down and hired a handyman service to come and do it. It cost her $200 out of her own bank account. I didn't say a word. I just watched them work from the kitchen window. The message was starting to sink in. Equality was a two-way street. My compliance was no longer guaranteed. The next big incident happened in the bathroom. Penny was getting ready for bed. I was in the living room reading. Suddenly, there's a shriek, a real horror movie scream. I jump up, heart pounding, thinking someone broke in. I run to the bathroom door. What is it? What's wrong? It's a spider, she yells from inside. A huge one, on the ceiling. I feel the adrenaline instantly drain away, replaced by a familiar weariness. Okay, I say through the door. So, what are you going to do about it? There's a moment of baffled silence. What am I going to do? You are going to come in here and get rid of it. I lean against the wall and cross my arms, even though she can't see me. I don't think I should, I say, my voice calm. What do you mean you shouldn't? It's horrifying. I can't be in here with it. Well, I start. choosing my words carefully. "I remember you telling me that arachnophobia is a learned behavior, often enforced by society to make women seem weak and dependent on men for protection." The silence on the other side of the door is deafening. "I wouldn't want to undermine your independence by reinforcing such a regressive stereotype," I continue. "I believe in you. You're a strong, capable woman. You can handle a spider." I can practically hear the steam coming out of her ears. "This isn't a gender studies seminar, Seth. It's a massive, hairy monster, and it's looking at me." "I'm sure you'll be fine," I say. "Just get a cup and a piece of paper." I hear some frantic shuffling, a chair being dragged, a yelp, and then a loud thud. A few minutes later, the bathroom door creaks open. Penny storms out, face pale and furious. "I trapped it under the laundry hamper," she hisses, "and I'm sleeping on the couch." She didn't want my help, but she still expected me to deal with the aftermath. The next morning, I went into the bathroom. I lifted the hamper. The spider was gone. It had probably just walked away during the night. I didn't say a word about it. I just put the hamper back. The real test of my new resolve, however, happened a few weeks after that. Penny was driving home from a get-together with some of her friends. It was late, around 10 p.m. I get a call. She sounds like she's on the verge of tears. "I have a flat tire," she says, her voice shaky. "I'm on the side of the road on that dark stretch a few miles from the house." My first instinct, the old me, was to say, "I'm on my way." But I stopped myself. "Okay," I said. "That's not good. Are you in a safe spot?" "I guess, but the cars are flying by. You have to come and change it for me." I took a breath. "Honey, the spare tire is in the trunk. The jack and the lug wrench are with it. You've seen me do it before. It's pretty straightforward." "You can't be serious," she whispered into the phone. "You want me to change a tire? By myself? In the dark?" "Knowing how to change a tire is a basic life skill," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "It's not gender specific. What if I wasn't home? You need to know how to handle these situations." "I'm calling you because you are home," she practically screamed. "My friends are already gone. I'm stranded." I asked her if she'd called her friends for help. She admitted that she had. One of them told her to channel her inner strength. The other one suggested she should call a rideshare and abandon the car. Neither offered to actually come and help. "Look," I said, "if you really feel unsafe, then your other option is to call roadside assistance. The number is on the insurance card in the glove compartment. They'll send someone out. But that will take forever, and it costs money." "Yes," I agreed. "It will. Those are the two options. Try to do it yourself or call a professional. I'm not coming." The silence was so long, I thought she'd hung up. Finally, I heard a choked sob, and then the line went dead. An hour and a half later, I heard the front door open. She came in looking exhausted and miserable. She'd called for a tow truck. It had taken them over an hour to show up. She dropped her keys on the counter and glared at me. "I hope you're happy," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "I'm not happy that you had a bad experience," I replied honestly, "but I'm happy that you were able to solve your own problem." She looked like she wanted to hit me. Instead, she just went into the bedroom and slammed the door. We were barely speaking at this point. The house was thick with tension. I was just going to work, coming home and doing my own thing. I made my own meals, cleaned up after myself. I was living like a roommate. I felt like I was holding my breath, just waiting for the whole thing to either collapse or explode. The explosion came on a Saturday. I had made plans to go help my friend move a new engine for a project car he was working on. It was an all-day thing. I told Penny about it a week in advance. She just shrugged. Whatever. So that Saturday morning, I got up and left around 8 a.m. It was a good day. Just me and my buddy, working with our hands, talking about nothing important. No theory, no ideology, just bolts and wrenches. It was a relief. Around 3 p.m., my phone rings. It's Penny. I almost let it go to voicemail, but I figured I should answer. Hello? I'm met with pure, unfiltered panic. Seth, you have to come home. Now! She's screaming. What? What's wrong? Are you okay? It's the kitchen. The pipe under the sink. It burst. There's water everywhere. I could hear a roaring sound in the background, like a waterfall. My engineering brain immediately kicks in. Okay, calm down, I say. You need to shut off the main water valve. Do you know where it is? No, I have no idea. I've never had to look for it. It's in the basement, I tell her. On the wall where the water line comes into the house. It's a big round handle. You need to turn it clockwise until it stops. The basement is dark and scary and full of spiders, she cried. I can't go down there alone. Penny, you have to, I insisted. Every minute you wait, the damage gets worse. Just use your phone flashlight. I hear her sobbing. I can't. I tried to turn a handle I found, but it won't budge. I'm not strong enough. The water is almost to the living room. She was completely falling apart. And in that moment, I knew I had all the power. I could just drive home and be the hero. Fix everything. And things would probably go right back to the way they were. But I couldn't do that. It was too late for that. This had to mean something. Okay, Penny, I said, my voice very quiet. I will come home. I'll leave right now. But first, you need to say something. What? She shrieked over the sound of the flooding. What are you talking about? I need you to say it, I repeated. I need you to tell me why you need me to come home. Because my kitchen is flooding. No, I said, that's not the reason. I need you to say the real reason. There was a long pause, filled only with her panicked sobs and the sound of gushing water. Please, Seth, she begged, just come home. Say it, Penny. I could hear her take a ragged breath. Her voice was just a broken whisper. I need you to come home, she stammered, because you're stronger than me, and you know how to fix things like this. And I can't do it myself. It was the hardest thing she'd ever had to say. It was the truth. Okay, I said, I'm on my way. I hung up, told my friend I had an emergency, and drove home, sticking to the speed limit. The scene when I arrived was even worse than I imagined. Water was seeping out from under the front door. I opened it to find at least an inch of water, covering the entire first floor. Penny was standing on a kitchen chair, crying hysterically. I didn't say a word to her. I walked past her, my shoes splashing through the water, and went straight to the basement door. I went down the stairs, found the main valve in about 5 seconds. It was old and stiff, just as she'd said. I grabbed it with both hands, planted my feet, and put my entire body weight into turning it. For a second, it didn't move. Then, with a loud groan of protesting metal, it began to turn. I twisted it all the way until it was tight. And then, silence. The sound of the rushing water upstairs stopped. I came back up from the basement, soaking wet from the knees down. I looked at the absolute disaster that was our home. The ruined floors, the waterlogged cabinets. I looked at Penny, still perched on the chair, her face a mess of tears and mascara. And just then, as if the situation needed a final, perfect punchline, the doorbell rang. I waded through the water to the door and opened it. It was her father. She must have called him in her panic, too. He's a very old-school guy, a retired mechanic. He stared past me, his eyes wide at the indoor swimming pool that was our living room. He saw Penny on the chair. He looked back at me, soaking wet and looking like I'd just wrestled an alligator. He shook his head, a grim little smile on his face, and clapped me on the shoulder. Well, he said, his voice booming in the quiet house. Good thing the man of the house was here to fix it. I watched Penny's face crumble. That one sentence from her own father in front of me, after everything that had happened, it was the final blow. The rest of that day and all of the next was a blur of wet vacs, mops, and calling insurance companies. We didn't talk. We just worked. That night, after we'd done all we could, we were sitting in the damp, quiet living room. It was time to talk. I went first. I told her everything. How I'd felt for the past year. How I felt like I wasn't her partner, but her employee. A tool to be used whenever it was convenient. How her principles always seemed to bend in a way that benefited her and gave me more work. How it wasn't about strength, it was about respect. And I had felt none from her. I told her I was done with the double standards. I don't mind being the guy who kills the spiders and opens the jars and fixes the sink, I said. I really don't. But I have to be valued for it, not taken for granted, not lectured about my toxic masculinity 5 minutes before you ask me to go lift something heavy. I laid it all out, calmly, without yelling. For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't have a clever comeback or a theoretical point to make. She just sat there, looking at the water-damaged floorboards, and listened. When I was finished, she cried. Not the hysterical, panicked crying from before. It was a quiet, sad, exhausted kind of crying. She admitted that she'd been unfair, that she'd gotten so caught up in the theory of it all that she'd lost sight of the reality. She'd been so focused on what she thought she was entitled to escape from that she never considered what she was demanding of me. It wasn't a magic fix. Our problems didn't vanish, but it was a start, a real one. The cleanup took weeks. We had to have the flooring replaced, but we did it together. When the new laminate flooring was delivered, it came in a dozen heavy boxes. I went outside to start bringing them in. After I carried the first one, the front door opened. It was Penny. She was wearing work gloves. She didn't say anything. She just walked over to the next box, grabbed one end, and looked at me. I grabbed the other end, and together we carried it inside. The other day, we bought a new armchair. It was one of those ones you have to assemble yourself. After we got it into the living room, she opened the instructions. She looked them over for a minute, then looked at me. "All right," she said. "Looks like you're on bolt-tightening duty, and I'll be in charge of handing you the right pieces and making sure we don't mess up." I just smiled. Be me. Still an engineer, still married. House is mostly dry now. Things are different, better. It was never about wanting to go back to the old ways. It was always about fairness. It was always about respect.